It's a Party Groove Friday. And of course, on this wonderful day, I've got a special guest in the studio. Got to say good morning to our Honorable Minister of Education, Youth, and Sports, Melissa Gumbs. Good morning, Melissa.
Good morning, Elektra.
Oh,
Finally, I've made it.
yes, I know. Couple postponements, but I know it's been busy time,
Yes.
exams and all of that coming up, lots of
Yep.
things happening. So you're forgiven.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So I know that you've been extremely busy, and I want you to update the community as to what is going on in the field of education, youth, sports,
And culture.
and
Yeah.
culture.
No, it's definitely been a very busy time. Honestly, when I first came in, I swore in November 26th, and a lot of the time between November and January was, clearing a lot of things that needed a decision to be
Uh
taken.
huh.
We're talking about stuff from 2023 and so forth. And on top of that as well, we went right into budget cycle, and then that was December, and then budget again in January. So I really feel like I truly started, towards the end of January, like paying attention to different things in the ministry that we'd like to do. And then of course I kicked off a school tour
Uh
where
huh.
I visited honestly pretty much every school, primary and secondary on the island,
Mm-hmm.
public schools,
That's
subsidized
good.
schools, the
That's
private
good.
schools. And I was made sure to keep posting the videos and such. A lot of people saw some of those interactions at Sister Regina, Learning Unlimited,
Yes.
um, and so forth. So that's been a large part of what we've been working on, my cabinet and I, and of course, putting out the little fires that can pop up on a whim, as
Definitely.
is happens sometimes with government.
But I think it's very good that you went and visited the schools so
Yeah,
that you have that hands-on feel to see the kinks, the concerns, the challenges
yeah,
that the various schools on the island face. I mean, you're the minister of education. You want to hear, feel, touch. Know what is my
yeah.
education
and not
portfolio all about.
and not just the challenges, also the opportunities, because there are
Yes.
quite a few.
Mm-hmm.
I think we focus a lot on the challenges and the negative, but I've met on this school tour, some amazing teachers, some amazing educators in general, and
Yes.
also some amazing kids.
Mm-hmm.
They are, in particular at an elementary level, so in tune with just their environment, and I think they notice so much more than we think they do.
Yes, they're little people,
Yeah, they're little
little
people.
people.
Yesterday I actually went to I was invited to speak on leadership to grades 1 and 2 at College School
Uh-huh.
in KB, and they asked me, do you get stressed?
Uh-huh.
I said, I do. Sometimes I do get stressed, but I always try to, relax, take some time for myself on the
For
weekend,
sure, for
and
sure.
read a book or go to the beach, and then
Mm-hmm.
one of them, gives this sage like nod, and she's like, to manage your stress.
Oh my
I'm like, you're
goodness.
6. What are
I
you?
I know, right? I
What do you
know.
know about managing stress? Soon they're gonna be leading me in meditation,
I, I
So
I'm telling you, I have a 8-year old too, and sometimes I'm like,
yeah,
what?
so it's
What are
really
you talking
amazing,
about? Yes.
the opportunities that already exist in education. I'm looking forward to working with all our educators, see how can we capitalize on those.
Right.
And then I think having that support to identify those opportunities for positive change and exploiting them, that's gonna you know erase some of the challenges that we face.
Well, of course, after Hurricane Irma and Maria, some of the schools got a lot of damage. Any updates pertaining to that on reconstruction of the various schools?
Yes, so there are quite some challenges, even with that. I actually
Oh.
have an update this week that should be coming to me on where we're at. The
Mm-hmm.
schools themselves, there's been a lot of repairs. Right now, the focus is on the gymnasiums,
Yes.
and the sports facilities.
Okay.
And there are a lot of challenges with those projects, but it is something that, like every day, it's something that has my attention and my focus.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that we can, speed up
The
what's happening there,
process.
yeah, and start seeing some actual work get done.
Well, of course, you're the Minister of Education, Youth. They go kind of
Hand
hand
in
in
hand.
hand. What about sports on the island? You hear often a lot of people, oh, they have nothing sports for the kids. They have this, they don't have that.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
I say maybe we need to do a better job of promoting. I think
Okay.
everybody, not just government, but maybe the organizations, government, private sector, and such.
Work
Because
closer
there's a
together.
lot that
Mm-hmm.
happens. Just this next week, actually, I think the 28th is the secondary schools competing in basketball.
Yes.
So that's happening. I've been to quite a few netball tournaments since even before becoming minister. You have the football association, so you have all these associations that do a lot of work: aquatics,
Yes.
athletics, and there's always a presence there from the schools, especially the parents and the teachers of those students. But it would be good for the general public as well to start going out and attending these events, because there's quite a bit that happens already.
For
And when
sure.
it comes to and I think as the ministry, we are definitely going to be collaborating closer with NSI, as well as the St. Martin Sports Federation, which is now picking back up itself, putting some structure into how sports is handled and managed on the island. Because that's, I think, also what has been lacking
Yes.
is real structuring. I always tell people, Curacao didn't get to start fielding Major League Baseball players just by saying, "Oh, we can just play baseball." There was a plan,
Of course.
on how do we build our athletes up to a certain level, and then form partnerships where they can graduate, so to speak, and expand their skill set even more.
Because there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of opportunities. We have some very accomplished superstars like Casey Carty,
Yeah,
for instance. He's out there playing for one of the best leagues,
yeah,
out there, representing St. Martin. So I think it's there.
yeah.
And hopefully, in the near future we'll have more opportunities for young athletes
Most
to,
definitely.
maybe even be part of bigger programs and be in Olympics
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah, yeah, and that really comes with
Mm-hmm.
development of the sport, and not
Yes.
just development of the athletes. And I think a lot of people miss that point. But you also have to develop your coaches,
Mm-hmm.
your referees, your umpires.
Yes.
Everybody has to be brought up to a certain level.
Of
When I
course.
when I lived in the Netherlands, you have the Netherlands Basketball Bond, which is their basketball federation, very professional. And even as a small Martin organization as USC doing a sport dag, we had referees from the NBB,
Mm-hmm.
who were close with one of my members, that came, and it was professional grade refereeing. So,
Yes, of
and
course.
that too is part of building the discipline in our athletes, and their development as a whole. So
Well, I'm looking forward to all these great initiatives and plans that you have in store for us. But not only do you have the sports portfolio, you also have the cultural
yes.
aspect of St. Martin. Tell us more about what you're doing in that regard.
So for culture, one of my primary objectives now is identifying funding, so that we can begin to implement some structural restoration and maintenance programs for especially our monuments.
Okay.
That's something that I've expressed to the department head of culture, Ms. Clara Reyes, is definitely a top priority for me for that sector. Additionally, simply trying to find ways that the ministry can support and facilitate those organizations that promote our culture, that work to maintain it. We had a
Mm-hmm.
FOGA cleanup the other day. Paul Ellinger and Ralph Cantav planned that. I passed by and I attended that, and we talked a bit about what could be done to secure that monument a bit better, and
Yes.
protect it from not just the elements but also from people. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also about awareness campaigns for persons who come here or who are born here, whether you're born here or you just come here to live and make your living. You have
Born
to
to
have a
be
certain
here.
level of respect. Yeah, we're born to be here. You have to have a certain level of respect.
Yes.
And what I saw at the Foga Monument was you had car wrecks put down in front of it. They explained to me that there's this big metal structure that is used to sift dirt for construction, and such, to sift out rocks and such. Just put down there, like, just be
Yes, but
placed there.
maybe because it's like, okay, nobody ain't doing
And it's
nothing
true,
with it.
exactly. So it's also true that if you don't show that you have
Exactly.
respect for that, then others are not going to have respect for it. So one of
Exactly.
those programs and plans is to definitely have the monuments protected, to have them, their perimeters, whether it got to be fenced in or so,
Mm-hmm.
that has to happen. And then with signage, educational signage as well,
Right.
and with consequences for persons who violate. So that's what I'm looking forward to getting off the ground, in collaboration with the Department of Culture as well as the Monuments
So,
Council.
so hopefully, there'll be more monuments on the list and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
so it's also about identifying what's there, what maybe is not listed,
Yes.
and all of that is part of it. And working with our neighbors as well. You have Remy over in St. Eustatius in state that has done a fantastic job
Mm-hmm.
on heritage protection and monument protection. So also identifying best practices from within the region on
Of
how we can
course.
better maintain ours.
And it's a very important aspect that you brought about, which is awareness. You
Yes.
have to teach people about our culture, our heritage, where we came from, so we can know where we're going. And the best way to do that is by having these things, monuments,
Yep.
protected, so that they're not destroyed in a construction or anything of that sort, or just taken for granted, like, okay, it's my land, but it's on
Yeah.
my land, but I
Exactly.
know that there's lots of elements and laws and that goes with that. So it's a difficult thing, but I hope that
It
in
is,
the
but
near
you have to
future.
start.
Yes.
I always say, persons a lot. There's a lot of things that have to happen, and it's a lot of work. But if you
Mm-hmm.
don't start, it's going to continue being a lot of work, and it's actually going to become more work. So you have to kind of start somewhere and see how you want to address, the challenges that we've had that can be fixed, whether it's by legislation or by enforcement or simply by putting up a fence.
That's so true.
Yeah.
When I think about culture, also I think about the creatives that live here on St. Martin, and we lost one of the greats of St. Martin, which was Miss Ruby Butte.
Yes.
And I saw during the carnival, that tribute was also given to her. Beautiful.
Yes.
And is the ministry going to do anything with regards to Dame Ruby Butte?
Yeah, so actually, in about a week or two, we're gonna kick off the official first annual Dame Ruby Butte National Short Story Contest.
Oh, nice.
That is something that I had announced, kind of soft launch before Carnival.
Okay.
Because yeah, in the mix of Carnival, you don't want
Yeah.
to announce something like that. Nobody's gonna remember it.
Remember exactly.
But no, we're working now. We're actually finalizing some of our judges. This is something that is going to be for our young high schoolers, so that 12 to 14 year age bracket, where they can submit a short story. It will be judged, and there are going to be three winners and some great prizes for those winners.
Hmm.
But I may be back in a couple weeks to
Okay,
actually
of
talk about
course.
that. But that is something that and I asked permission from the family to
Hmm.
name it after her. She
It's a
was
great
not just a
honor.
painter; she was also
No.
a writer, a
Yes.
prolific writer, and I think it's important that you highlight those icons with it. What I can say is that for the short story contest, with every year, with every theme, there's going to have to be an incorporation of some Martin culture,
Of course.
bits of our heritage, or just at least mention of us, throughout the stories. So, and I think it's important to build as well, that literary base for us. And I think kids have such an imagination, and I actually had the idea from before I became minister, but it was really solidified for me in um, I went to read to the Mac Betty's Estate Group 6A. Shout out to
Uh-huh.
Teacher Tong, and we made a deal where I would get the other book in the series that they had me read, and they would read to me.
Oh,
So I
nice.
went back to them in, I think, January, and they read to me, but some of them performed some of the scenes, and
Oh,
then others, 12 of them, made me custom comic books.
wonderful.
And just the writing, some of it's so dramatic. I'm like, you guys are way too young to be this dramatic, but you have to kind of foster that love already, that they have it in them. And so
Mm-hmm.
this is one of those ways where I'm hoping to stimulate
Of
that
course.
creative side, that we have our future literary icons
Well,
right here.
I'm sure we have so many
Yes.
talented, creatives here on the island of St. Martin, and I know for sure, when the culture department or the Ministry of Culture, get in contact with the different NGOs to foster and
Yeah.
help open opportunities by letting people know about various grants
Yes.
that they can have that can definitely help them and give them opportunities to develop on
Yes.
another
No,
level.
exactly. And there is a lot of funding that is available, elsewhere. And I know it's a struggle too, because some of those, to write a grant is no easy feat,
Of course.
but it's also about, supporting those organizations that can help facilitate, train persons to be grant
Mm-hmm.
writers, teach the organizations, how to apply for these funds.
Right.
And yeah, then they stand a better chance of actually getting them.
Well, the short stories are gonna kick off in June, you said?
So the promo is going to kick off in June. The intention is that students take the summer to write their story.
Aha.
Submissions are going to happen, in sometime in August,
Okay.
and then and winners are going to be announced on September 8th, which is actually World Literacy Day.
Okay,
Yes,
got
as
it. So they
as
have
established by
time.
UNESCO. So they have some time,
Yeah,
but it's
and
to get them the time to think about the idea and
no, but
stuff.
it's good because summertime, you're more relaxed, you
Yeah.
don't have schoolwork. A lot of kids go on vacations, they go on all kinds of outings and stuff like that. So I think
Yes.
it would give them an opportunity to rethink and get creative and
Yeah.
rewrite and all that stuff,
Yes.
and then submit their applications. Is there any special website or anything like that,
No,
or
so
the
they
details
were
to
gonna
follow?
provide an email and a cloud drop where you can just upload your story. I think that's the simplest way.
Okay.
Maybe in the future there will be a website, but we're thinking about how best to handle that, because you don't want to have too much digital spaces that is not controlled, and I don't want
Mm-hmm.
it to be
Mm-hmm.
started by me per se, but the ministry should then have a branch off of what exists
Correct.
already on the government website to kind of
Yes,
have it
to
as a
have
house for
more
this. Yeah.
a consistency
Yes.
as to whatever projects that come online
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So after speaking with you, I mean, before the um, how you say, being appointed as a minister, your campaign and all of that, there are all kinds of things that you would like to accomplish. Any how you say, timeline goals that you say, hey, I want the people to know I'm working towards this, I need help, I need suggestions,
Yeah.
anything like that that you would like to share with us at this
So
time?
one of the two of the most critical things to come out of my school tour, and even before that, to be honest, because from Parliament, these are the questions that I have been asking my predecessor's predecessor. One of the first things that I signed off on was a FBE review. So a
Yes.
review of our foundation-based education system, which I attended almost every town hall that was held to consult with parents and educators and students in the communities, and a lot of great information, a lot of data gleaned from that. That report should be coming to me by the end of the year,
Okay.
because I think data collection is now done, and of course it takes time to parse through
Of
all that data
course.
and
Of
such.
course.
That is going to form the basis for what really is the plan of the ministry.
Mm.
I'm not, and I've said it, in Parliament publicly. I'm not a person that's going to make plans without having information. We need to see, what are some solid recommendations for FBE moving forward, where we can improve the system. Because, for years, persons have been saying it's got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but why?
What? Yeah.
It was something that was rolled out, I believe, 2004. It has never been assessed. Never. Assessment is not something that we like to do. It has never been assessed. So now that it has been, we need some solid recommendations on how to change it, adapt it. And if the report says it gotta go, then we can
Then
say,
look into
okay,
other
now what
options
is
as
the
to.
what is the timeline towards streaming it out and streaming something else in?
Got
But
it.
all of that needs data to be
Of
able to
course.
to be, it's fact based decision making.
No, but I think you're doing it in the correct way, because you don't want to say, okay, everybody says no good,
Yeah,
but why is it no good? Have
exactly.
concrete facts,
Yes.
research that can substantiate the
Exactly.
reason why you're gonna continue it,
Yeah,
amend it, adapt it, or say, okay, we're gonna stop it, and this is why we're gonna go with another option
precisely.
of education, because we see that everything is no now more so digital.
Yeah.
All the kids should know how to work a laptop and
Yeah.
do all
And maybe
kinds of
all
stuff.
teachers as well. And that's
Mm-hmm.
all part of it. So the FBE review is assessed, not just how students operate in a system, but how the teachers do, how parents do, what trainings are maybe needed for educators,
For
what
sure.
information and awareness is needed for parents, even,
Mm-hmm.
as well as students, to get to a point where if they can function in this system and in any system. So that's one thing. We're also now looking into, in particular for the public schools, like a structured maintenance,
Okay.
because right now it's very ad hoc, and that's not how maintenance is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that we are, with the Division of Public Education, looking into, trying to secure. Of course, for a lot of this, from all of it, you need money.
That's for
And
sure.
this is one of the more cash-strapped ministries, but that also ties in with some of the funding, external funding, then, that I'm trying to see if we can get a handle on, or at least, establish partnerships with maybe private sector, so where it is, possible to
Adopt a
yeah,
school. I don't
either
know.
adopt a school, or if not adopt a school, at least contribute to a fund that is going to, be
What
our
about
maintenance one.
what about the World Bank? Are they not how you say able to help with the reconstruction of various schools, for
So the
instance?
World Bank is just the manager of the trust fund, and
Yes.
at the end of the day, the NRPB is who is the project implementation unit. So they're
Mm-hmm.
responsible for implementing the projects.
Okay.
Basically, the bank is more a check and a balance. It's not the executor, if you will.
Yes.
But I have had conversations with the bank, because they also are privy to funding opportunities else,
For
at their
sure.
level,
For sure.
that that regions can access, that and the Caribbean can access. I recently returned from St. Lucia, where I handed over chairmanship of the Caribbean Safe School Initiative
Mm-hmm.
to the Honorable Sean Edward, Minister of Education for St. Lucia, and that initiative is predominantly, UNICEF, and the UNDRR, so United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction Office. A lot of it has been focused on funding to retrofit schools, get them up to par when it comes to earthquakes, hurricanes, etc.
Yes.
Developing safe school programs, on have students who are teachers and students that are trained to respond to disaster, trained to respond, whether it's man-made or natural.
Correct.
And then what featured this time around in the ministerial forum was the discussion on school violence and bullying.
Mm-hmm.
And there are funds available to help promote programs that are anti-bullying, that are more, building inclusion, and so forth. Even to the point where I believe it was Guyana that mentioned that in Guyana, bullying is now almost like it's thought like a subject, in the sense
Oh
of
wow.
this is what is acceptable behavior and this is what is not. So and teachers and students were, brought into that, by way of the CSSI and some of the initiatives that it is able to execute.
But it's
Yeah,
good
so
that
it's
you're exposed to that
yes,
kind of camaraderie with
yeah,
different islands and
most
seeing
definitely,
like how they're doing it. Hey, maybe this is something that we could also adapt and implement here
yes,
in St. Martin, because sometimes you hear the young people speak and your eyes like, what?
yeah.
It's like almost you need to know the language that they're talking, because
And
they
there's
could
a
talk in
yeah,
code
they
and you
can.
don't know.
And there's a lot of work that has been done, particularly on the CSSI already, by
Mm-hmm.
Student Support Services Division,
Yes.
in particular by Division Head Mrs. Olga Mussington Service.
Yes.
A lot of work has already been done, and now it's for myself to continue to support that work and to continue to carry it out. And also look at best practices from our co-signatories to the CSSI
Mm-hmm.
agreements. I think that particular program in Guyana is pretty incredible. We saw some others as well, where students are not used to police their fellow students, but it's more about, hey, this behavior is not cool,
Not acceptable.
unacceptable. The
Right.
assembly then, I think in St. Vincent itself, the assembly then talks to the student, and addresses
Okay.
the student, like, and if they're not called up, in front of the assembly for like a month or so, then they get a reward and they're recognized for their positive behavior as well. So I think that goes a long way to addressing, some of the challenges that we see. Of course, a lot of what you see in schools as well is socioeconomic. Parents taking out frustration at home, and then that frustration creeps its way into the school, and all Caribbean countries are dealing with that and struggling with that. So that's
Yeah,
also a
I think but I think it could be vice versa
yeah,
too, because like say for instance, you're as adults, you go through your stresses and whatnot, and you speak to your kids and all of that. But sometimes the kids come home with like, what, like, where did you hear that, like,
yeah,
so it also comes from the school environment into the home as
yeah,
well. But then as parents, you got to recognize, hey, this is
exactly,
not right. correct them
Yeah.
at the time that you encounter something like that.
Yes.
It's not an easy situation because sometimes you hear like, yes, it starts in the home, it starts in the home, and I don't always believe that is
Yeah.
to be true.
True.
I think it takes
Sometimes
a
it's peer
community,
pressure. Yeah, it takes a community
exactly,
indeed.
and it takes a village to raise a
Yeah.
child.
And I think it's important to, especially for young people, to kind of raise that awareness with them that, whether you plan to go away and study and come back to St. Martin or stay wherever you study, the States, Holland,
Mm-hmm.
another Caribbean island, the things you put online are gonna haunt you.
Mm. But
Because
that's it.
employers everywhere will check your social media history to see what kind of person you have been, and whether
Mm-hmm.
it was posted on TikTok in high school,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. It's gonna stay there.
forever.
It's very tough to scrub anything in its truth from
and
the
and
internet.
and now in this digital age,
Yes.
it's extremely
Yeah, so I
extremely
always
hard.
urge young people to be aware of, your conduct at this time of your life, because it is gonna haunt you. Mugshots don't go away either.
Mm-mm.
So whenever you go abroad, whatever you do, it's gonna follow
Yes,
you.
because now everything is online. You
Yep.
go by gateways into countries. You got to stand up. You got to
Yeah.
take a picture. They're taking your fingerprint, and
Yeah.
then they got you. They
Yeah,
got
yeah,
you
yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. So it's it's it's
So
it's also about raising awareness on that
yes,
front,
for
and
sure.
yeah. So
I think it's wonderful that you've made time in your busy schedule to come and sit with me to give us an update on
yes.
the various elements of your portfolio, because it's a heavy portfolio that you have. And I just want to say to you, continue your work in the community of St. Martin. And if people want to provide ideas to the minister, the young dynamic minister, how can they do that?
People know how to reach me. I feel like it doesn't matter. Already people
Okay.
are reaching me, whether they send a Facebook message to the ministry's page or to myself personally.
Okay.
I would say, we do ask that persons, especially for like requests and stuff, that they book it in downstairs,
Of course.
send it officially. It's always easier that way to keep track of things.
Understood.
So that's something that I always advise. But I definitely I welcome, all input, because I think, it's like you said, it does take a community, it does take the village. There are many things that, I do know, and there's a lot of things that we don't know. I have a very capable ministry as well that I definitely need to shout out, because they've done a lot of work in spite of the challenges that they face
Yes, of
from a resource
course.
perspective, and they keep it ticking every day. So yeah, we are always open to any type of idea, and I shared one with you this morning that I hope to see flesh out, soon. And I think that those things as well are important, that everybody gets involved in education. Education is something that is not just, in the home or in the school. It's society as a whole has to play a hand in that.
I'm so glad that you said that because, for many, many years, we've always had, for me, that's the feeling that I've had. Everything is so academic, academic,
Yeah.
academic,
No.
and, when I look back on the way how we grew up way back when, for me, that was education. We
Yeah.
would go on trips, we would see different cultures, we would,
Yeah.
go on these excursions and as a subject in geography and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And for me, that was also
Yes, it
education. It
is.
wasn't all about the marks that they got.
Yeah.
You had the holistic approach to
Precisely. It's not just
education.
a blackboard
Nah,
and a
exactly.
desk. It's so much more than that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it really does take everybody to get involved in it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you have it,
Thank
our
you.
Honorable Minister Melissa Gums, of course, working hard for the community of St. Martin. And don't forget, if you have any suggestions or ideas that you think could help, the ministry of ECYS, you say?
Yes,
Or
ECY, yeah,
yeah,
Ekis.
ECYS. You can reach out through the official portals, of course, or you can DM her anyway and get in touch because it takes a community to raise up a community.
Precisely. Thank you, Allegra.
Welcome.